Hi, this is Tony Levin of King Crimson and of the Beat Tour, and we're very happy to bring our Beat Tour to your area. We're going to be on the 30th at the Royal Center, and we hope to see some of you there. And I'm happy to be on Alejandrosis to speak to you today. So see you soon.
El rock progresivo es una de las corrientes más interesantes, por momentos misteriosa y de difícil ejecución. Si hay un nombre que engloba el concepto del progresivo, es el de King Crimson. Liderado desde finales de los años 60 por el virtuoso de la guitarra y el mellotron Robert Fripp, este grupo llevó el rock a nuevos terrenos como lo son el jazz y la música clásica a través de atmósferas sobrecogedoras con una interpretación bastante compleja. Lamentablemente, hace 4 años Fripp anunció que King Crimson pasaba del sonido al silencio. Pero no todo es tristeza. Una nueva banda llamada Beat, en honor al 9º álbum de King Crimson, aparece en el panorama con 2 integrantes de King Crimson más 2 superestrellas del rock pesado. Es así como Beat llega por primera vez a Colombia este 30 de abril con todo el legado de King Crimson. Y el día de hoy es un honor para mí compartirles mi charla con Tony Levin, un absoluto maestro del bajo. Esto es Alejandrosis. Sean ustedes bienvenidos. Quiero invitarlos a que se suscriban al canal de Alejandrosis si aún no lo han hecho, activen las notificaciones y si este video es de su agrado, por favor lo compartan. Un me gusta también nos ayuda mucho a crecer. Indiscutiblemente, Tony Levin es uno de los mejores bajistas en la historia del rock. Su currículo es impresionante. La colaboración con artistas de renombre y su crédito en discos clásicos haría que nos quedáramos horas aquí revisándolo. Sin embargo, diré que tocó en el álbum final de John Lennon, Double Fantasy. También tocó junto a Pink Floyd en ese trabajo de los años 80, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, ocupando el lugar dejado ni más ni menos que por Roger Waters. También tocó en esa maravilla de trabajo de David Bowie llamado The Next Day y su nombre aparece en todos los álbumes de Peter Gabriel. Pues bien, después de tocar por 40 años con King Crimson y de compartir con el guitarrista y cantante Adrian Belew, pues se reencuentran aquí en Beat sumando 2 enormes talentos. El del guitarrista Steve Vai, además del baterista Danny Carey, que vimos hace muy poco en Colombia con la agrupación Tool. Por ahí parte esta entrevista, preguntándole al señor Levin cómo surgió la idea de Beat. Escuchémoslo.
The idea was Adrian Belew's idea. He had it many years ago. He loved the music. Well, we loved the music that King Crimson did in the 1980s with 3 albums, Beat, Three of a Perfect Pair, and Discipline. Uh, so Adrian wanted to relive that music with special players, and he'd spent many years trying to find the lineup of the right players. And then once he had the players in mind, it took years to find a time that our schedules would allow us to do this, to tour with Beat, because everybody's busy. Danny's very busy with Tool. I'm busy with many bands. Adrian's busy. So finally, we were very happy last year, 2024, to be able to tour the U.S. and Canada, and we toured a lot, 64 shows. And this year, we're very happy to bring it to Latin America.
Wonderful. For the people that maybe don't know, what can you tell me about the end of King Crimson? You play a lot in after the pandemic, over the pandemic. I think you play until 2021, maybe. What happened? What is the decision to finally the end of the band?
Robert Fripp started the band even before I was in it in the 1970s. And so the decisions about the band lie in Robert Fripp. And he felt that it had come to the end. He didn't say that we'll never be again, but he said, for all intents, we're done touring. And so King Crimson is finished. Of course, like the fans, we in the band hope that maybe someday there'll be there'll be another version of King Crimson, maybe with different players. What Robert said to me when I spoke to him about it was, if King Crimson speaks to me, he said, then I will listen. So that doesn't tell me anything concrete, definite, but it's possible. We had a great time touring those last 5, 8 years. We toured a lot, and it was a terrific lineup of players with 7 players and then 6 players. So we had a good time, and the last tour, which took us to Japan, and the last shows was very mixed feelings for me because I had been 40 years in the band. So playing those songs for the last time with King Crimson, now I'm playing the songs again with different players, but playing those songs for the last time with King Crimson was very emotional for me. So it was a memorable tour. I feel great about all the time I had in King Crimson, and I'm the kind of player who plays with different groups all the time. So I look forward. I don't so much look back and cry about what's over. And I'm very lucky to be touring with these great players in beat, terrific musical level of musicians in the band. I've said this often that the new guys, quote unquote, new Steve Vai and Danny Carey are kicking my butt and making me try to play better than I was playing before.
Wow. And what thinks Mr. Fripp about beat?
Oh, he supports it enthusiastically. In fact, he named when Adrian Belew went to Robert and said his idea of touring with these players, Robert suggested that he call it Beat. So even the name of the tour and the band came from Robert, and he's very supportive of it. It's very interesting for me hearing Steve Vai play Robert Fripp's guitar parts, which are very difficult, but also Steve plays them with the style of Steve Vai. So we get both. Ideally, we get both the classic quality of these pieces from the 1980s that the King Crimson wrote with Robert Fripp's playing, but also a new element of it and with Steve Vai's playing. And the same with Danny Carey. He was a fan of Bill Bruford, who played the parts in the 1980s. And Danny has some of the same drums that were Bill Bruford's drums, but Danny plays in a really unique style. So we're trying to honor the material, but take it in a little bit of a different direction.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, King Crimson never played in Colombia. In fact, as I said, in 2019, and in that last South American tour, I crossed my fingers, but well, that didn't happen. However, the
Yeah.
Colombians will be able to enjoy something of that great legacy now. After playing intensively with beat in North America last year, what can you tell us about the experience of these King Crimson songs in this kind of reincarnation of King Crimson, if you allowed me?
Yes, it was a great tour and very interesting in a number of ways. It's something like a King Crimson tour, but it's different in ways. We have some lighting, a little bit of a show beyond the music, which King Crimson did not do. King Crimson just did it like a classical concert and played the music. We're playing certainly King Crimson music that's pretty special. So a lot of the fans in the audience know the music and are happy to hear hopefully really good players playing that music that they're familiar with from those 3 albums. But also we found there were a lot of young people who weren't that familiar with the first. They heard this is a good band and they should come. And the feeling was that they were very excited about what they saw. And like I said before, I think the less I speak about the other musicians, the level of musicianship is very special and very high. Adrian's voice, by the way, is great. He sings tirelessly. His voice never gets tired. He sings very high and very well. So it's also a pleasure to hear him revisit those songs from when he and I were younger.
Nice. Mr. Tony, just the last Friday, I have the opportunity to see Mr. Danny Carey play live here in Bogota, because he played with Tool in an important festival, the Stereo Picnic Festival, a huge festival here in my country. How did the idea of playing with him and Steve Vai come about?
Again, it's Adrian Belew who came up with the idea of the tour, and he chose the musicians. I'm very happy he chose to be with me. And about drummers, he had played with Danny Carey quite a bit, and I played with Danny Carey only once when he sat in with King Crimson. when we played in California, and we had already 3 drummers, but then he sat in for, I think, 1 or 2 songs. So I was a little familiar with his playing, but mostly from hearing him in Tool, and it's a different experience when you play with a player. And he's really become the ideal drummer for this band and this music because he plays easily plays the music the way it should be, but also he has a unique style, as you heard if you heard Tool. And there's a lot of room in this music, in King Crimson music, for the drums to go off and be the drummer he is. He doesn't need to play a certain part exactly the way it is. There's a few places where he needs to play the part exactly like it is, and he does. But it's a good showcase for what Danny can do. And we found that the more shows we did, the more Danny Carey came out in the music, and so he's featured quite a bit, and he should be. He's a fantastic player.
Estoy muy emocionado por el repertorio que trae Beat aquí a la capital. Va a interpretar canciones de los años 80 de King Crimson, más precisamente de su álbum Discipline de 1981, Beat, publicado al año siguiente, y Tree of a Perfect Pair de 1984. Con eso se augura que vamos a escuchar canciones como Elephant Talk, que me fascina, también Indiscipline, Neurótica, Heartbeat y una canción tan entrañable como Man with an Open Heart. Acerca de esta selección de temas y la participación de un genio de la guitarra como Steve Vai, continúa esta charla con Tony Levin.
Well, like I said, it was Adrian's idea, and the idea was to stick with the music of that era, the 1980s King Crimson, and that's what we do. We don't know the exact set list because we have not rehearsed yet for the Latin America tour, but probably it will be very similar to the set we did. We can't do every song from those 3 albums, but we do most of them, and it's exciting. And like I said, Steve and Danny bring something different to the music. A little hard to describe it in words, but the audience can see it right away. And also Steve Vai, as anybody who's seen him knows, he's a captivating performer. Aside from the music he plays, he's really something special. So it's a compelling concert of high level of musicianship and very interesting staging. And I think a very good quality of music we're playing. So it's a special concert for those who come.
Wonderful, can't wait. Talking about these good vibes that you're feeling with Beat, with these musicians, will you see Beat composing and recording new material in the future?
I'm asked that a lot, and we have no plan to do that. Again, the thing that decides that is schedule. When could we find a few weeks or a month to be together, to be not touring, but writing? So far, we haven't been able to find that time. So I can say there are no plans to do that. And I can also say, like with all of rock, you never know what's going to happen. We're all aware that it would be a very special album. We've been very busy preparing an album. It's really not the subject of this interview, but we're preparing an album or a box set of releases from the tour that we did in the US last year, and that's going to come out pretty soon. So that's on our mind more than recording new material.
Wow. Thank you for that news. I think one of the things I like most about the idea of this band is bringing the roots of the progressive rock to a new audience, to the young people. As I was telling you, I recently saw Tool. A lot of young people was there. And that band, for example, Tool was heavily influenced by King Crimson atmosphere and the ways of developing songs, right? How do you see the impact of King Crimson material on later and current bands?
That's a very interesting question. The truth is, I don't pay attention to that. I am very much a bass player. I am immersed in the music I'm doing it as well as I can do it. And I do a lot of music, not just King Crimson and not just Beat. And Stickman is a band I'm in. Levin Brothers is a jazz band I'm in. So I'm very busy touring and writing for the next albums. And what I don't pay attention, I don't look up and see the big picture and say, well, who's been influenced by me or by King Crimson's music? So I'm afraid I don't know anything about that. I'm flattered and honored if somebody heard King Crimson and was influenced by it. I think that's a good thing, but I don't really know anything about it.
Okay, you play a lot of, for example, last year you released "Bringing It Down to the Bass," a solo album with an incredible set of musicians. I know that Dominic Miller played there, Mike Portnoy, also Robert Fripp. What can you tell me about that album?
Well, thank you for bringing it up. When I'm not on tour and I'm home, I'm either playing on someone else's album or I'm writing music for my quote someday album. So about 2 years ago, I decided if I don't finish up an album of my own, I have a lot of material that I've recorded, but if I don't finish it up, maybe I'll never finish it. It's fun making it, but an important part of that is to say, okay, pick the best material of pick the best, let's say 15 tracks out of the 30 I had. And so I did that, and I treated myself to have different drummers, different players on each track, but especially drummers. I know I'm very lucky that I know a lot of great drummers, and each track I thought, well, who's the guy which is the drummer that would surprise me with his playing on this piece and would love the style of this piece. So in a way, even though it's about the bass, the album, in a way, it's an exploration of great drummers playing different songs, and you can hear their styles in that. Also, I wanted, because it's about the bass, I'm a photographer also, and I wanted to do creative portraits of each bass that I played on each track. So I accompanied it with a booklet. Even the CD is accompanied with a booklet, and the LP has a great big booklet with photos, interesting ones, not just here's my bass, but I took them out into the woods and in downtown. In the middle of the night, I leaned them against a wall with a spotlight on them, things like that. So it was an exploration for me of about bringing it down to the bass, which is the title.
Estamos en la antesala del debut de Beat en Colombia con el legado de King Crimson. El señor Levin, además de su impresionante trayectoria, tiene dos características a nivel interpretativo. Una es el uso del Champman Stick. Este es un bajo especial con una forma bastante atípica. Tiene un sonido polifónico y 10 a 12 cuerdas. Lo otro son los llamados funk fingers, que no es otra cosa que adicionar un par de baquetas a sus virtuosos dedos, pero que sea él el que nos dé una explicación más a fondo de estas características.
At first, I'll tell you about funk fingers. Way back in 1985, I was making an album with Peter Gabriel, the So album, and on one piece called Big Time, I think, I asked the drummer, Jerry Murata was the drummer, I asked him to play with his drumsticks on the bass strings while I fingered with my left hand, I fingered the notes. And so we did that track on that album. Okay. Then later when we were touring and playing it live, I was trying to play that part with a drumstick in my hand. And that wasn't easy because it was a drummer who played it with two sticks. And Peter Gabriel suggested to me, why don't you attach drumsticks to your fingers? So I thought about that, and we figured out, me and my bass tech figured out a way to attach two drumsticks to my fingers, cut down drumsticks, short ones, so that I could play that part. And through the years, I've played, not all the time, but a lot of the time, I played many tracks with these devices, and I named them funk fingers just for fun. And I had a guy make them and offer them to sale to see what other bass players would do with them. And so that's the story of funk fingers, which I guess I invented way back in 1986. The Champman Stick was invented by Emmett Chapman, and it's a very unusual instrument. It's played with the touch style or hammer-on. In other words, instead of plucking the note with one hand and fingering the note with the other hand, you just touch or hammer on the fret, and it makes the noise, not the noise, it makes the note with one finger. So as you can imagine, with all your fingers, you can play a lot of notes. It's a little bit like playing a piano, but it has strings. And he designed it with some unusual features. It has a bass side, bass strings, and a guitar side with guitar strings and a stereo output. So essentially, every stick player is both a bass player and a stick player. He has both instruments on the same fretboard, on the same neck. So that's that instrument. And I played it mostly the bass side of it on a number of albums and a number of tracks. I think the best known of those is way back with the King Crimson 1981 Discipline album, the piece called Elephant Talk, and the band decided to begin the piece with my stick playing a little bit of a riff. So it's well known. And sometime about 15, 20 years ago, I decided to form a band called Stick Men with another guy who plays that instrument and a drummer, a Pat Mastelotto, the drummer of King Crimson, so that with three players, we could really make the sound of five players, because each stick player has guitar and bass under his fingers. So we still tour quite a bit. I just came back from touring Europe with Stick Men, and we have been to Latin America quite a bit. Yeah, so Stick Men is a nice vehicle for me playing only the Champman Stick, but in most shows, like the Beat Show, I play both the Champman Stick and a few basses.
Wow, incredible. Mr. Tony, you are playing bass for a lot of decades. You are a truly master in that craft. My question is, you are always learning new things. It's
true. It's true about me anyway. I'm always learning. I learn from playing with other players who are great or maybe better than me, and I learned subtle things about music, musicality, about playing time from Danny Carey. I learned things about playing in time and Steve Carey, Adrian Belew, of course, I learned from, but I've been playing with 40 years with him, so maybe we've learned our lessons from each other. But yes, and also hearing young bass players is an amazing thing to me. Of course, nowadays I don't need to point this out. You can hear them on the web. You don't need to go out live to hear every bass player. And the things that I hear young players doing that I cannot do, that just technically are beyond me, still inspire me to practice and to up my game, is an expression we use in America, to try to be a better bass player. Do I try to play as fast and as technically as the fastest young players? No, I don't. And I don't feel like I need to do that. But what I feel good about and what I like to do is be inspired by players who are really doing something special. And when I hear that, especially a bass player, really any instrument, but especially a bass player, when I hear that, I think, well, how can this help me try to be a better bass player?
Este 30 de abril vamos a vivir una noche especial, una noche de gala con lo mejor del rock progresivo. Cuando uno tiene la oportunidad de hacer una entrevista tan especial con un artista de esta envergadura, pues es inevitable pensar cuándo conoció la música de él. En mi caso fue con Peter Gabriel. Hace más o menos 20 años me hice un DVD de Peter Gabriel en concierto. Se llama Growing Up Live. Y ahí vi por primera vez a Tony Levin tocando el bajo de manera exquisita, interpretando canciones como Secret Word, que es tremenda, o también, obviamente, ese gran éxito que es Sledgehammer. Para finalizar esta entrevista, le pregunto al señor Levin acerca de su trabajo junto al ex cantante de Genesis, y ahí nos tira toda una chiva.
Yes, and yes, he's great to work with. He's a great friend of mine now, of course, after all these years, since 75, oh my God, or 76. Yeah, a long time. He's an inspiration musically and personally. He's a very special person. He has used his fame and his success to advance the cause of human rights around the world. So he's very, very special in that respect. We did a great tour called the I.O. Tour a couple of years ago in Europe and in the US and Canada. And there are no plans to revisit that, but I hope, like all the fans, I hope there will be more of the I.O. And I can tell you this, because I came back recently from England from recording new tracks with him, that Peter's working on a new album that will be very special. I've heard the music and recorded it, and it's great. I don't have any idea when it will come out or in what way it will come out, but he's working on new music, and that's very special. And I feel maybe one of the things I feel the most lucky about in my career is that I had a chance to play with Peter Gabriel and to have my life influenced by him, my musical life and my personal life, because he's that special a person.
Extraordinario. Ahí estaba la palabra de esta leyenda viviente del bajo. En los comentarios quiero que me indiquen si les gusta King Crimson, si van a ir a este concierto de Beat O si ven este video posteriormente, cómo les pareció el espectáculo. También podemos abrir la conversación a la rock progresivo. Todas las opiniones son bienvenidas. Mi nombre es Alejandro Bonilla. Es un gusto para mí compartir con ustedes. Quiero invitarlos a que me sigan en mis diferentes redes sociales, donde van a poder encontrar más contenido relacionado. Muy pronto nos volvemos a encontrar aquí para hablar de la música que más nos gusta. Hasta pronto.